everyone, thanks for tuning in. So today I'm going to walk you through my mudroom locker build. Basically in my front entrance of the house there is a closet that I took the doors off of and I converted into a mudroom. This was basically a way to corral all of the backpacks and all the jackets and everything that the kids and myself are dropping off because I use a backpack for work as well. And there wasn't a really functional entrance. Everything was kind of shoved into the closet. We had a separate bench in the front and it looked horrible and there was nowhere to put anything, and it was just a makeshift solution. So I decided to build this myself. I built it out of a combination of using MDF and plywood. It's kind of depending on what I had around not the house, but the garage and the shop. And this build cost me $500. I got quotes from several different people, several different contractors. I showed them what I wanted to do. I had pull-out drawers and everything, and they quoted between $2,500 to $4,000. So that was quite a little bit more than I was willing to spend after all the materials and paint and everything and getting all that kind of stuff. My entire build was $500. So this video isn't really meant to be like a how-to tutorial. It's more of a compilation of pictures that I snapped from my Instagram stories and kind of explaining the steps that I took in case you were actually wondering how to go about building this. I'm not an expert by any means, but I've been taking on a lot of DIY projects over the last couple of years, and after having this unit for a year, I can tell you that it was completely worth the build, and I'm very glad that I did it. So this is just a quick shot of what it looks like right now. You're gonna see after this what it looked like before. I still have this shelf here. I'm still trying to figure out what to do there. And then I have removed that little bench unit that I had here, and this just had two doors on the front. So I basically took them off their hinges and reconstructed everything. So this is what it looks like on a daily basis. I didn't clean it up, I didn't do anything. We have a couple of coats hanging, we've got bags, and all the stuff that they currently use is inside here. So all of their winter stuff and all of the summer stuff is housed up in these bins right there. So this is my front entrance before. As you can see, there's just a bench that we bought for like $70 from Home Outfitters. This is our closet. There's nothing special. Again, it's just build grade with doors, and I took the doors off and decided to reconstruct everything in there. So like I said, this building is a combination of about 3/4 inch plywood and 3/4 inch MDF. Is whatever pieces I had laying around in my garage that I could piece together to make it cheaper. I started prying off the door jamb piece, just taking a knife and then scoring the silicone, holding it together. I used my hammer to pry it apart. And then after that, I filled all of it with just a regular wood filler, sanded it down, painted everything. Next up was the base. I took simple strips of plywood. You could actually use 2x4s, but I did actually end up taking the baseboards out, mostly because I was lazy, but instead I used them as supports for the base, so I didn't have to cut more supports. From here I used leftover MDF and particle board and plywood to kind of piece together the bench. I used pocket holes to screw everything together and to attach everything, and you can't see any of them now that everything's put together. For the actual bench piece itself, so I had one layer for support and then one that was decorative over top. I had leftover cedar pieces that a friend of mine had given me. I stained it a dark stain, and then after everything was said and done, I lacquered the crap out of it. So it's really shiny, it's ultra glossy, and I love it, but yeah, I probably could have used something cheaper instead of cedar. I did a lot of dry fitting before actually installing everything. You'll notice in homes, the walls and corners, they aren't actually 90 degrees. So don't assume when you're building that everything is 90 degrees. Do a dry fit first and try to figure the angles out from there. So after fitting the cedar on the top, I used Douglas fir to trim out everything on the cubbies. Then I moved on to building the supports for the lockers. So you'll notice on the sides, I didn't actually put up any additional pieces of plywood on the wall. I just left them as is, and I ended up painting over the existing drywall. After everything was installed and screwed, I nailed in more Douglas fir trim, and at the very top of the ceiling, the space from there actually extended upwards by a few feet, but when I did like a faux mock-up of the baskets, it just looked really funny. There's a really dark space there, so I closed that space up since I wasn't able to really use it with a board, so it looks a lot more cohesive and like it's an actual built-in. So I filled everything, sanded it down, taped it off, and after all of that was ready ready to be painted. I used my Wagner Flexio sprayer with a large attachment, but I put on 2 coats of primer with that. I sanded lightly in between the coats to make it smooth, and then I used the same sprayer to do 2 top coats, or 2 coats of paint, and I used a Sherwin-Williams white semi-gloss paint. This stuff, now that it's dry, it's like rock hard, it's awesome, and I absolutely love it. So at this point, after everything was really functional and done and painted, I added in baskets and hooks, and I was actually able to use the space while I moved on to the next step of building out the actual drawers. So because of how deep the closet actually was, there's a lot of wasted space if I didn't make drawers. It goes back so far that shoes would just eventually get lost back in there and be hard to access everything. So I decided to make a pull-out shelf for the shoes as well as drawers to put all the items in that's not shoes. So the piece that looks like it's actually the trim around the drawers is the pull-out shoe shelf. The drawers are just made of, not a quarter inch, sorry, a 1/2 inch plywood, and I did a lazy trim of a 1/4 inch MDF for the shaker front. I put on edge banding to cover all of the drawers and the edges to clean up the look, and I painted the inside of the drawers white. In retrospect, I actually wish I just lacquered it and sealed the natural wood, because I do like the natural wood color peeking out when you open it. I added on some decorative contact paper onto the shoe shelves to make it easier for cleaning and just give another pop of color instead of everything being so white. So here's the finished build. It's glamour shot, it's all empty. And now here my original intention was to build doors onto each locker to really hide all of that clutter. But with kids being so small at the time last year, they would have been 3 and 5, I guess. It was a lot of effort, or it is a lot of effort for them to climb up and actually put their coats away. So if I had to build doors and they had to open it up, they never would have hung their coats up. So this way works really well right now. And I may or may not end up building those doors later, but I'm not really sure. So the reason why I built out the drawers, it's because it's easy to access and hold seasonal items that we need on a daily basis. The kids can't reach the top bins yet. It's even hard for me sometimes. So everything is at their hands reach. So the idea is that they can do it on their own and they can get their own stuff. The bins on the top hold other seasonal items that we won't need until the next season, so summer versus winter essentially, and it has other things up there like for fishing or bug spray and stuff like that. Alright, so this is the front entrance. Hi. This is what YouTubers film in. They have a really nice top on them. They always have pajama pants in the bottom. So anyways, jumping forward now to having this unit for about 1.5 years, 2 years, there's really not a whole lot that I would change about it. It's super functional, and I love having it just like a dropping zone. So you'll notice here that I've got the dividers on the bottom shelf, but not the top. Originally, I had intended longer items to go there, like if you needed baseballs, basketballs, or whatever, or hockey sticks, there would be a long, wide item, or wide shelf that you could put things on, but we haven't hit that spot in our lives. I do like having the division there, so I may or may not build that. I would eventually like to build the doors so it looks nicer, but not until the kids are much, much older. Down here, I ended up doing a quick and dirty build, but because, like I said, the drawers are so long, what ended up happening before, we would put all our shoes and then they would kick to the back and they would fall off the ledge into the abyss, and we'd have to take all the drawers out, or not the drawers, but take everything out to get the shoes. So it could look nicer, but I don't care right now. It's very functional. But I just put a piece of 3/4 inch MDF and screwed it in from the bottom. So now the shoes have something to rest up against and they're not going to fall through. Down here, I don't think I would change it, but just as an option for you guys if you're building it, some people have the open space here and you can just kind of kick your shoes in as you put them down. I think that is really good functionally. But aesthetically, it's nice to have this baseboard. If I had the baseboard open and I could kick my shoes in, I think it would look funny like a little black hole. It just takes a slightly more effort to pick your shoes up from here and put them in here. It doesn't sound like a lot of work, but I know for some people that is a lot of work. The only other thing that I'd meant to do, but I didn't, this was not supposed to sit flush. This was supposed to do like a little overhang by a couple inches. Again, just for aesthetics, but I didn't measure that properly, so that's where we're at right now. Alright, so that was my mudroom build. That took me the better part of 3 months to build. I basically, once my kids are asleep at about like 8:30, 9 o'clock, I have about an hour or an hour and a half to do stuff, to get things done, to read, to clean, to prep for the next day, to woodwork. So it took me 3 months. I mean, you could probably get this done in under a month if you have more time to dedicate towards that, especially if you're better at math and angles, which woodworking is all about. I suck at that, so it takes me a little bit longer to plan things out in my mind, to draw it out, and to make sure it's going to work before I actually cut wood and put things in and install it. Again, this wasn't really meant to be a how-to, but since I did document the process, I thought I should put it out there for you visual learners. I am more active on my Instagram, which is @doitlike_Dolly. Send me a private message here, send me a private message here if you want to know more about the build. If you have any questions about woodworking, I'm more than happy to answer them and shop talk with you. I'm not an expert by any means. I have done a whole lot of mistakes, but I have definitely learned from them as well, so I can tell you what not to do when you're building. If you want to see more random stories and videos from me, please do subscribe to my channel. So there's 2 little trailers or 2 little spoilers of what I will eventually create for videos, which honestly the timeline will probably be like 6 months to a year from now. And I've already put Instagram stories on this, but this is the built-in fireplace mantle that I built this year in 2019, so I want to do a video on that for you. And this little guy here, much in the same fashion of this video where I didn't mean to make it a tutorial, I just have a bunch of pictures documented and I'll kind of walk you through it. But this is a 2-story playhouse that I built in the basement for my kids, which they don't use, but that's a different kind of story. But I'm hoping to do videos on both of these in case you guys are interested in building your own. I can give you some tips and tricks on what to do, what not to do. But I hope you guys are having a fantastic day, and I will talk to you in my next video. Bye!